It's October 9th, 2017. And Mormon bishops are child abusers. This is a video about how Mormon bishops abuse children, systematically, and as per instructions from the headquarters of Mormonism, which is in Salt Lake City, Utah. When children come of age within Mormonism, they are taught several things. For example, they are taught that masturbation can make you gay. When I was growing up, I was given a book, a signed book called Miracle of Forgiveness, a book by Spencer Kimball, Mormon prophet, a prophet of God. This book said that masturbation can easily make you a homosexual. This was my first introduction to homosexuality. Before this, I had no idea that homosexuality even existed. The Mormon Church taught me that masturbation could easily make you a homosexual. Also, in 1982, a letter from Mormon prophet Spencer Kimball stated that oral sex was not good, that God did not like oral sex. So, when I was 11 years old, I was given a lecture by my father. He said that he was told in his priesthood meeting that he should come home and tell his son that masturbation was something which was bad. Then, when I turned 12 and entered the Mormon priesthood, I was a very strong and pious little naive chump of a boy. And being a naive chump, I wanted to be a very adherent Mormon, so I started doing baptisms for the dead. Within the Mormon Church, you can go to their temples and help dead people become Mormon. You can help dead people become baptized. You can help dead people become married in the Mormon Church. So the Mormon temples are basically so that dead people can become Mormon. That's their whole purpose. So if you're not Mormon and you die, then be grateful that the Mormon temples exist, because they want to, you'll become Mormon. And yeah. So anyway, at 12, I got a special recommend to be able to go to the Mormon temples so that I could do baptisms for the dead. Then, because I was an adolescent coming of age, of course I masturbated. And so then, in Mormonism, if you masturbate, you have to confess to your Mormon bishop. So I confessed to my Mormon bishop about masturbating. And I believe the man I confessed to, his name was Ron Pugmire. Ron Pugmire. And then I remember another bishop named Larry Reevely. Anyway, there was a string of other bishops, but I think Ron Pugmire was the first one I started confessing to and stuff. So you confess, you say, "Oh, I masturbated," and then the bishop will tell you, "Oh, well, thank you for telling me, little you. Thank you for telling me you masturbated, and God will forgive you." Then you feel better. "Oh, it's such a relief. God forgave me for masturbating. God forgave me because I confessed to my Mormon bishop." Then, let's see, how long does it take before you slip? Before your body, your evolved 1.2 billion year evolved nature, 1.2 billion years being the time sexual animals have been around, 1.2 billion year evolved nature, how long does it take for a kid in Mormonism to masturbate again? A kid coming of age. Puberty. Well, whatever that time frame is, That's when I masturbated again. Then I had to confess to my Mormon bishop. Eventually, I got tired of this bullshit. Although I didn't think it was bullshit exactly at the time, sadly. But I kind of got worn down by the whole process. So I stopped going to the Mormon temples to do baptisms for the dead. And if you talk to Mormons about stuff like this, they'll say, "Oh, you were so weak. You were so weak because you masturbated. So weak. Oh, you're just weak. You're weak." But impressionable young kids, just exactly like me, have killed themselves because of how Mormons abuse children. They teach children to hate and loathe their own bodies. They teach children to hate, loathe, and fear any sort of sexual inclination that comes naturally when you're coming of age, when you're in puberty there and entering puberty and progressing through it there. So it's child abuse. And it's child abuse which is on a similar continuum with the child abuse that goes on in the Catholic Church, where Catholic priests rape children en masse. N-E-N, mass. And also in mass, I guess. In mass and en mass. That's a little Catholic joke. Not really a joke for the kids who are abused, though. But, you know, people who are abused, you do have to joke about a little bit, I guess. But nevertheless, you have to be honest about how, yes, the Mormon Church abuses children. Mormon bishops are child abusers. And I recently tried to see if the Mormon Church had stopped this practice, and so far there's zero confirmation that anything has stopped at all. So when you're all through your adolescent years, and from, say, what is it? Maybe as young as 8. From 8 until, I don't know, 25, 24. They really want to know if you're masturbating. Are you masturbating? Are you masturbating? If you go to the Mormon Missionary Training Center near BYU in Provo, Utah, where you learn to be a Mormon brainwasher as a young chump kid, 19-year-old going in there, they ask you, "Are you masturbating? Are you masturbating?" Well, the Spirit told me you were masturbating. Are you masturbating? Are you masturbating? Are you masturbating? Are you masturbating? That's the main question Mormons have. And yet, the founders of Mormonism, Joseph Smith and Brigham Young, had underage wives. Brigham Young, 14-year-old wife. Joseph Smith, 14-year-old wife. Brigham Young, 15-year-old wife. Plus, both had wives who were still legally married to other men. That's called adultery. So where does Spencer Kimball get off telling young boys that masturbation is evil and that masturbation can make you gay? Plus, there's another man of God named Boyd Packer who came up with this pamphlet that says that told boys, you can't make your little factory go too fast. So when I was growing up, I got the double whammy of Spencer Kimball's Miracle of Forgiveness book that said masturbation will make you gay, homosexual, and also that you probably burn in hell or some Mormon equivalent. And also that and then you get this pamphlet from us, Boyd Packer, that says you shouldn't make your little factory go too fast. And then you have to confess your mandatory confessions, interrogations with your Mormon bishop if you masturbate. And then if you can't go to the Mormon temple if you masturbate. So all this stuff in the Mormon Church, it's child abuse. And it leads to some suicides. It also leads to people becoming forced, chosen outliers and ultra-leftist reactionaries. So there's a very popular Pride Center, homosexual Pride Center in Salt Lake City. Very popular. Pride activities. Partly because the Mormon Church drives people to be ultra-leftist reactionaries in response to their child abuse. So I agree, the best course of action would be for people to have families, inherently reproductive families, honor our 1.2 billion year evolved history as sexual animals, sexually dimorphic animals. Yeah, you'll be the most happy if you honor that heritage. But the Mormon Church is shooting themselves in the foot by having this systematic child abuse going on. And yes, the Catholic Church does bad things too, and it's with the similar regard, outright raping children. But you got to admit, forced interrogations with children is kind of a form of rape, really. It's really a form of rape, child rape. And of course, Islam is far worse than any of this. In Islam, the men are driven to murder or suicide so they can get 72 virgins, and yes, they really believe that. So I admit the Islam is far worse, which is partly why, as an ex-Mormon, I more readily recognize the problems with Islam. So anyway, Mormon bishops are child abusers. That's the bottom line. And they'll continue to be as long as the word masturbation is ever mentioned within a fucking Mormon chapel. So, the Mormon Church, big bureaucracy, doesn't give a shit about what little fry say, but maybe this video will help get the word out that Mormon bishops abuse children. Mormon bishops are child abusers. Mormon bishops drive people to suicide. Mormon bishops drive people to be homosexual. Yes, that's true. They drive them to be ultra-leftist reactionaries who might end up not having a happy life because they're rebelling against Mormonism, which, it's kind of reasonable to rebel against child abuse, but you can't go too far. So how not to go too far is not really being helped by the existence of Mormonism. It's being helped by the existence of other good people who are not fucking Mormon. The people who live good lives who are not Mormon. The people who live good lives who don't abuse their children. So, all right, that's it.